Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Jeroz Dalal, currently serving as the head of clinical operations, medical governance, and risk management, chief patient organization at GlaxoSmithKline Pharmaceuticals. With over 3 decades of experience in global clinical research and medical affairs, I'm passionate about advancing healthcare and creating awareness through my new series, Against All Odds. The focus of today's discussion is going to be Cushing's disease. I'd like to mention that the views expressed in this podcast are purely my personal views and do not represent those of my organization. Today, I have the absolute pleasure of introducing Shazan, a woman whose journey is nothing short of extraordinary. Diagnosed with the rare and life altering Cushing's disease, she faced immense physical hardships, systemic healthcare gaps, and emotional struggles. Yet, through it all, Shazan has built a remarkable professional career and continues to advocate for inclusivity and empowerment for all. In this podcast, Shazan opens about her highs and lows of the journey, her thoughts on inclusivity, and her vision for a world where every individual, regardless of physical limitations, is valued and empowered. Her story is more than that of survival. It's a testament to thriving against the odds. So stay tuned for a conversation that will inspire you to redefine what strength and resilience mean in your life and to know more about Cushing's disease. Shazan, before we dive into your journey with Cushing's disease, could you tell us what was your life before Cushing's disease?
Hi, Jingles. I was a happy-go-lucky person and born into a big Parsi family. I was always surrounded with big friends, and I enjoyed traveling. I enjoyed exploring new ideas, getting on new adventures. I had friends around me all the time, and life was fun and full of possibilities.
Then tell us, when did you first notice that things were getting wrong, and how did you lead up to the diagnosis of Cushing's disease? I think it was sometime in 2011.
Yeah, so for a long time, I didn't know what was wrong. Uh, even as my health kept evolving. So it started in 2002 when I got into a freak accident and I had a leg fracture. I took 3 surgeries and a year to heal. I started putting on weight after that. I had symptoms of PCOD. I started missing my periods. The doctors told me you have PCOD, but I kept putting on weight. And in 2009, I had a unexplained hip fracture leading to hip necrosis, and that got me really bound. So I absolutely knew that something is wrong. And in 2009, when I was getting evaluated for a hip fracture, I I got to know of an article of a Sudanese patient whose symptoms matched exactly mine, and that's when I insisted the doctors to get an MRI done.
Yeah, wait a moment, Shazan. Sorry to interrupt you. Did you see you insisted on getting an MRI scan done?
Yeah. So in 2011, I had a broken hip and which had undergone necrosis and requiring a hip replacement. I had no idea what was wrong with me. So I had gone to hospital for a second opinion and evaluation for hip replacement. But looking at my gait, they were kind of confused, for the treatment options. And that is when I was admitted to do a complete physical evaluation again. And while doing that, we came across an article in the hospital where a Sudanese patient had traveled to India to lose weight and undergo a bariatric surgery, but instead was diagnosed with a pituitary tumor. And she underwent a tumor surgery and went back home just fine. So I insisted my doctors to for me to undergo a similar MRI scan.
Wow, that's such an empowering moment, Shazan. Taking charge. So once the MRI was done, what was the out?
So that is when the true cause was revealed. A 2.4 centimeter pituitary macroadenoma accumulated. Now, when I say 2.4 centimeters, it's almost the size of small grape to look a squishy on my pituitary gland and also on my oblique nerve. That is when we got to know the real reason Cushing's disease. It was both a relief and a shock to finally know the reason that has caused all the confusion for all these years. But then I really didn't know what lied ahead when I really.
So hormones are the integral part of our body. These are the hormones which are released by various glands in the body. Pituitary is a master endocrine gland. You would have heard about thyroid. We have parathyroids. We have glands above the kidneys, which are adjacent to the kidneys as the adrenal glands. We have gonads. So we have, and the fat. These are the endocrine glands we have. And the secretions of these glands decides your personality. So appearance, your appetite, your bowel and bladder habits, the sleep, the vision, the menstrual cycles, the sexuality, and the mood all are decided by these hormones, and any imbalance of these hormones causes problem and high and low. So we as an endocrinologist, our job is to keep the balance back and bring back to the normal. In case of, when we're talking about Shezan's case, we're talking about cortisol excess. So cortisol is a hormone made by the adrenal gland, which I said is above the kidneys, and it is a hormone which is needed for our survival. But when it becomes excess, it causes problem. And the manifestation is most important manifestation is the appearance. You are bloated, there's a mooning of face, there's a redness on the face. Obesity is there. The obesity is mainly on the central part. If someone has diabetes, blood pressure, it gets aggravated. Sleep disturbances come through. Menstrual irregularities come through. They're diagnosed with PCOS, but PCOS may be missed in the background of cortisol excess. So these are the varied manifestations. But what we should understand how to differentiate them from the common obesity or the metabolic syndrome. These are fragile people. The skin is fragile. They have bruises. They have ecchymosis. The muscles are weak. They cannot get up. The proximal muscle weakness is there. The bones are weak, aches and pains. So, obese person who is very fragile, one should think of Cushing's, and there are various specific tests which we can diagnose, and they are simple tests to rule out these conditions, because we don't want to diagnose anyone and everyone as Cushing's. So we have certain set of screening tests which we do, which are simple OPD based tests to rule out the conditions. And once we have suspected and diagnosed, then we take them through a battery of tests and the battery of management associated with these conditions. Most of these cases, if we have found in pituitary microadenoma, we do a MRI and maybe an IPSS, which is an inferior petrosal sinus sampling. Our center is an expert in that investigation, and then the neurosurgeons will operate these cases.
Shazan, it's difficult to imagine the toll the disease has taken on your body, especially as you mentioned, you were being at one point in time about 200 kilograms. Can you walk us through how the disease affected your physical health?
Now, see, from 2007 onwards, weight gain for me was inevitable. No matter what I ate or I did not eat, I kept on putting weight on everything. Clothes didn't fit me. Walking was difficult. I couldn't do stairs. I had constant high blood pressure all the time. Day-to-day activities had become difficult for me. So while I was working, I was ignoring these as just, stress or daily, or as daily stress. But no, I realized that my health was getting deteriorated day by day. In 2009, like I said, I underwent a hip fracture. By 2011, I had put on weight, and my weight at that point was 234 kilograms. I did require hip replacement surgery back then, but a, a hip implant does not take more than 150 kilograms of weight. So I had to.
That would have helped you.
Absolutely not. So I was wheelchair bound. And in 2011, I was admitted to the hospital again. And I was put on a 350-calorie medical starvation diet. Now, for the hope that I would lose some weight and be eligible for a brain tumor surgery, when I say 250-calorie diet, it almost means 20% of what a normal human consumes in a day. So after 3 months of medical starvation, I did undergo a brain surgery. But again, that was not entirely successful. Some part of the tumor had remained in the pituitary gland.
Yes, it did.
Yes. And it continued causing symptoms. So I continued putting on weight, and I did continue showing symptoms of Cushing's, which were pain, insomnia, uterine pain, and hair loss and receding hair, etc.
And you had some complications, I believe.
Yes, I also had the CS the fleet and brain meningitis post the brain surgery, and that kept me in the ICU for almost a month and a half.
So unfortunate. Shazan, as I understand, bariatric surgery is often seen as a solution for medical obesity. But from your experience, I know that it may not be a one size fits all answer.
Yeah, so bariatric can be a best option to tackle medical obesity when it comes from a metabolic as well. But in my case, since my disease was different, bariatric surgery could only help me lose weight. It was not the solution to my problem. So, in my case, my first bariatric surgery in 2005 was a disaster. I underwent the surgery hoping to lose some weight and get on with my treatment. But I ended up with a stomach infection which was nearly fatal. And instead of losing weight, I put on exorbitant amount of weight. My weight just skyrocketed after that surgery. Around the same period, I had to undergo a hip replacement surgery because my hip was broken and I was looking forward to lose weight so that I could have a hip implant. So now that I can lose weight, I couldn't get the hip replacement surgery done. And I continued putting on weight. At one point, my weight gain was immense and I had no choice but to undergo a second bariatric surgery, hoping that I would lose weight and I could get somewhere close to getting a hip replaced. So I underwent the second bariatric surgery. Unfortunately, that did not help me limited it. So then now I had a smaller stomach, but the states just didn't move. This was just the tip of the iceberg. I couldn't fit into MRI machines. I couldn't find weighing scales to take my weight. So I couldn't I couldn't track the progress of my disease at all. In fact, my last MRI that I've had is in 2018. After that, I've not been able to get an MRI done because no machine fits it. Also, in India, the insurance company and healthcare organizations regard obesity as a lifestyle disorder. So most of the times, the insurance companies do not provide the insurer the required insurance for these medical obesity related disorders, and they just dismiss them as lifestyle disorders. So if then and these life-saving bariatric surgeries, while I was undergoing these life-saving bariatric surgeries, I did not get the insurance, dismissing my ailment as medical obesity. So this is also a very huge gap in our system, wherein the medical obesity is just dismissed as an elective or lifestyle disorder.
Shazam, you made an interesting point, and it's unfortunate that the insurance coverage was not helpful in your case. So, just a question in my mind: did you consider getting treatment abroad?
Well, that is a question I've been asked a lot. I've considered this quite a few times. And it's natural for someone to think that one undergoing a rare or disease should consider treatment abroad because obviously the infrastructure or probably the medical assistance is not adequate in India. However, the truth is far from that. It's not easy to just go abroad for medical treatment. Firstly, in my case, I'm not sure of the guarantees and the costs are exorbitant to undergo treatment abroad. Absolutely, and there's no guarantee of treatment. And to coordinate the entire treatment, the medical complications, and post-treatment care, it would have been impossible for me and my family to coordinate for my body. Secondly, my weight or complications. I can't just imagine myself getting into a flight, getting into a medical accommodation, and traveling abroad. It's just too overwhelming for me. And thirdly, I wanted to create a close relationship with doctors in India, to have a group of doctors who understand my condition and who could help me manage my condition in the long term. So staying back in India and having my own team of doctors was a better choice than to go abroad, of course. And like I said, the limitations were not just financial, but also for
Shazam gave first many physical challenges, but emotional hurdles also must have been a part and parcel. They must have been equally tough. how did you cope with all of this?
So the hardest part of the struggle were the emotional struggles. Uh, yeah. And I felt very isolated most of the times because nobody understood. My friends, my family, doctors, nobody understood my side was so.
What were it?
So people around me thought that me putting on weight or all these symptoms that were happening were because of my poor lifestyle choices. Things like don't eat food, don't eat tasty food. You're just lazy. No? One doctor even came up and told me, "You're a research person. You need to know better. You can't be coming up with these excuses." So these statements really hurt me, because no one understood. And after a point, I realized that there's no point in having these things affect me because somewhere they come from a place of concern and also unawareness of the cushion's disease. So after a point, I stopped minding these statements and I focused on self-care.
And your immediate family members, what was their take?
My
Supporting.
my family members were extremely supportive. My mom has been my support. She's been an incredible support system. She's been extremely positive. In fact, frustratingly positive sometimes.
Why is that, Mama?
Because when I had no hope, I could see nothing ahead. She saw me getting better. She said, "You will get better," and I know that. And looking back now, it was her hope that kept me going. So I attribute most of my struggle, the ability to fight the struggle somehow. I also turned to learning new skills. I started learning digital media and social media marketing. I learned to do graphic designing. I started helping entrepreneurs to build their own brands. So this sort of distracted me from the pain that I was going through. I also found support groups on social media sites like Facebook. Now, this was a game changer because when I was on those groups, I could read stories of patients who had symptoms similar to mine, who were going through a phase similar to mine. I could share my thoughts, I could read their thoughts. It became a safe place for me. And it was the first time when I realized that there are a group of people who actually understand me and I'm not alone. So that was a game changer. And finally, like I said, I learned self compassion. I learned that other people's opinions won't define me and that I have to focus on loving myself first and everything will just fall. So these things help me more.
Great. Thank you for sharing. Shazan, now let me switch some gears here and just want you to talk about your work life. So, despite the physical challenges you faced, that's a remarkable career. So, how did you manage to talk about these studies and to try through professionally or through all of this?
So, I'm a postgraduate in surgery management and management. I started my career as an assistant working executive in a clinical research company and coming up with business strategies for creating a clinical operations network and managing sites were a part of my job. And I really enjoyed creating something new. I thrive on building new things. So it was great for me. And work for me is never a job. It's always a way of showing my creativity or showing. So business development strategy, within 2 years in that organization, I was a part of the core team. I was managing and organizing global conferences, networking with the senior members of the industry. And this experience taught me a lot about collaboration and learning from the senior members of the industry, and it really helped me shape my career. Even when I faced significant physical setbacks, I set up a company recruitment agency of my own and ran it successful for 3 years. After that, also, when I was wheelchair bound, I continued working with budding brands in small entrepreneurs, helping them create a brand identity for themselves. And yeah, that is what I did.
Great. It's really inspiring, Shazi. So we worked with King Shazan Urbans and also with Honduras R&D team. So how did these goals demonstrate your ability to lead and to give a weight?
So after I was wheelchair bound, I had a lot of time on me. So Shazam Herbals became my training ground. I uh, created a digital identity for Shazam Herbals online. So right from developing their website, redesigning their packaging, creating marketing strategies, brand building strategies, and doing thorough consumer research. I learned, it was a steep learning curve for me. I learned how to create a brand holistically from ground up, you know. So, Shazan Herbals has really taught me how to start a brand and bring it up from scratch. Uh, and recently, I've had an opportunity to work with Banagas, and Cadbury's is one of their subsidiaries. I was working with their R&D team, that is product development of biscuits. And initially, I was a little hesitant to take up the opportunity because in a very long time, this was the first formal job opportunity I had got in a very, very long time. And I was hesitant if I'd be able to take it up because of my health or complications and issues. But their team was extremely supportive and they encouraged me to take this up. And so I ended up working with them for 6 months in their R&D team. And it was a great experience. It boosted my confidence and it brought me back in touch with my professional network. And funnily enough, that is how I got in touch with you again.
So, Shazam, what are your thoughts on how can corporate sectors collaborate to better support patients with unique healthcare needs?
See, the corporate sectors can have unique opportunities to really help patients rebuild their careers. One such opportunity is under the DPI. And DEI is not just about policies. So it is about creating facilities which are suitable for patients with rare diseases or have some kind of different situations from a normal person. And COVID has taught us that now work does not need to necessarily happen from office and we can take work online. So if companies with a little more inclusivity, and if they consider such cases, then they should certainly become assets for organizations.
I must say, your journey with Cushing's disease is like navigating through a relentless storm at sea. Despite the towering waves and the seemingly endless darkness, you have not only managed to keep your ship afloat, but have also steered it to new horizons. With grit as your anchor, resilience as your sails, and a never say die attitude as your compass, you've turned every challenge into an opportunity to grow stronger. From mastering new skills like digital marketing, as you said, and learning Vedic astrology, to working with a global FMCG giant who've shown that even in the roughest waters, it is possible to chart a course towards success. As a next step, aspiring to deliver a TED Talk is another beacon guiding your inspiring journey forward. See, if we could advocate uh, for one major change to help people with Cushing's disease, or for that matter, any similar diseases, what would that be?
If I could advocate for one critical change, it would be to raise awareness and inclusivity for morbidly obese patients who might be suffering from Cushing's or other situations. The challenges go beyond the condition itself. The lack of understanding, diagnostic rigors, and lack of medical infrastructure they cause unsurmountable barriers during their treatment.
So, what will the government do?
The government and insurance companies must establish inclusive policies that mandate coverage for such rare diseases like Cushing's or other disorders, ensuring access to life-saving treatments and recognize that these conditions as medical necessities and not just lifestyle disorders. We also need to raise awareness about the Cushing's itself because far too few people know about, and fewer understand the impact it can have on a patient's life. Now, for most of the doctors and medical students, in fact, medical students and practicing doctors have only read about Cushing's in their textbooks, and far too few of these might have even seen a Cushing's patient. So patients and this kind of lack of awareness, often results in misdiagnosis or delay in the treatment for patient. Now, patients, especially those with morbid obesity, cannot be just dismissed as overweight patients, or to be blamed for their weight. Instead, they should be thoroughly examined and evaluated for underlying medical conditions like Cushing's. And this does not mean just a few blood tests, but a comprehensive, set of tests which include physical, clinical, radiological, and mental health examination. Early diagnosis is just not important, but it is life-saving. Cushing's disease, if left untreated, can be fatal, and awareness is the only weapon we have against it. Right?
Shazam, coming to my last question now. What advice would you give to patients who have Cushing's disease or, for that matter, any other chronic illness? From your experience, can you share some tips?
My first advice would be don't give up. Don't just give up on yourself. Continue exploring for options. Keep up a track of your health in a diary, maintain a diary, write down your symptoms. It'll not only help me, but will also help your doctors. And you can also seek out support groups because that is where you feel safe. You will also learn a lot from other people's experiences. Again, write a diary. Writing can be very helpful. You can write about your medical health. You can write about your mental health. You can just pour your thoughts out in your journal or a diary. It helps a lot to collect up your own thoughts. Also, when you're faced with good warnings, don't feel disheartened because this is coming from a place of concern or a place of unawareness. None of that reported. Keep your chin up and keep smiling always. And finally, remember it's okay to die and move on.
Well said, Shazan. It's okay to cry and you're not alone. So I'd like to thank you, Shazan. It is wonderful to hear you. And once again, thank you for sharing your journey so openly, shedding light on the obstacles you faced, the strength you have shown, and your vision for a more inclusive future. Your story is not just inspiring, but it's deeply educational, offering a powerful reminder of the importance of listening to and amplifying the patient's voice. We wish you continued good health, success, and fulfillment in all your endeavors. Cushing's disease is a life altering condition, and it is often difficult to diagnose, leaving patients vulnerable to years of misdiagnosis and suffering. Shazan's journey highlights a glaring gap in our healthcare system, the lack of inclusive medical infrastructure for patients with obesity, even when highly skilled doctors are available and ready to support. Her experience brings to light how basic diagnostic tools and facilities, which most of us take for granted, can become insurmountable for patients like her. Today, there is an urgent need to enhance diagnostic infrastructure, foster a stronger support ecosystem for patients, and prioritize empathy in our healthcare systems. Secondly, training for medical professionals, as you brought up, is very important to understand the unique needs of obese patients without bias and provides a dignified, judgment free space for all body types. And lastly, more research and innovation are critical not only to develop better medicines and better treatments, but also to ensure that every patient feels seen, heard, and supported at every stage of their journey. As the saying goes in Hindi, कोशिश करने वालों की हार नहीं होती. To those who persist can overcome against all odds. Thank you for listening, and let's continue to champion change one story at a time.